Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And today I have a pretty card for you in very soft muted tones using a sketch actually that I was given. This is for a team swap for my team this month, and I provided the class with a sketch of 4 different opportunities and then told them to interpret broadly. And so I've done that myself, and I have the card that I came up with, and so let's just get started. It's always fun sharing these things with you. This was the card sketch that we were given, and it has a background panel, and mine has a background panel, and it has a message with a banner, and they used a flower. I used a piece of this doily, and they had a big round piece, and I decided to use a doily piece instead. So it's very broadly interpreted, but that's the idea. It just gives you an inspiration then for a card. And I like the idea of gray and, in this case, Blackberry Bliss, the deep purple, and the Petal Pink. And so let me tell you the pieces that you need to make this card. I used a Petal Pink base that is cut at 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I have a piece of the Designer Series paper from the Peony Garden suite, and I'm using the gray behind this pretty peony pattern on this side, and I'm using this side, which just cuts down on the brightness really fast. And that piece is cut 4 by 5 1/4. Then this is a piece of Gray Granite, which is complementary to that suite, also cut to 4 by 5 1/4. Then I've used 2 doilies from the vellum doilies, square vellum doilies is what they're called, and they're just beautiful, very pretty doilies. And what I did was I used my Blackberry Bliss blend, and on the back side of this doily I colored in the doily, and I did one where I used an ink dauber also, and the color is a little bit darker. Let's see if I can put this maybe on the back of this and you can see the difference. The one I used, the ink dauber, came out darker, but on this one I used the light Blackberry Bliss, and I decided to go with this one. And this was more challenging to do, and it was messy, and it took a long time to dry. But if you don't have the blends, then you can definitely use a dauber and just go over the back of the doily. And also it makes a great little stencil. So I'll just use the back of this and show you that if you have some ink on here, as you're putting down your color, one of the things that you get, so if you did this on a piece of 4 by 5 1/4 to go on the inside of your card, you could get a stencil impression of this doily, which I think is very attractive. So there's a lot of reasons to do it with the dauber if you want just a very subtle pattern on the inside of your card. What I did here was I used a piece of the doily that I cut and some ribbon to do the inside of the decoration, but there is no reason that you couldn't put this stenciled image on the inside also. Okay, so let's get going here. What I did was I cut out one of the squares from here by just fussy cutting around all the places that were logical here to pull out this little square from inside the middle of the doily. Then I can use this part to go as my decoration on the inside and just trim that to fit however I decide to put it on here. Okay, so after all of that, what we need to do is I'm going to use my silicone mat, and for putting this doily down, and I noticed on these doilies that there's a lot of pieces that need to be still punched out, and you want to kind of go in a grid pattern to make sure you've gotten them all, because they're pretty tiny. And I wanted mine. I know some people like the look of having some of them still blocked up, but I'm not one of those people. I like them gone. I want to really be able to see the pattern. So here we go. I think I have gotten all of that one done. Now, there is a right side and a wrong side to the doily, and you can feel it. The right side is smooth and has kind of a convex feel to it, like it's slightly bumped out. On the wrong side, you can feel all of the edges, and it feels fairly concave. So on the back side of this, I just used my dot runner on all of the edges, and you could certainly do the technique where they use sponges and Tombow glue to cover the back of this, but I find that just using a little bit of dot runner snail seems to work pretty well. And then it's mostly covered, and so basically you don't see the glue. So I'm just going to attach that. This piece of Blackberry Bliss is 3 inches square, and this doily is 3 inches by 3 inches as well. So if you just get it started right on the edge, it fits perfectly in here. Now, there is going to be a little bit of glue residue kind of sticking up, and I found that if I used my glue eraser, I can just get those pieces picked up. Okay, there we go. Now on this one, I used these beautiful new gems that we have called Elegant Faceted Gems. And on this one, I used this kind of cloudy one, and it picked up the pink, which I think just came out beautiful. And I thought it might be kind of fun to try one of the others here. Let me bring this up so you can see. There is this one that is this kind of cloudy that looks kind of got a pink cast to it. Now this one is got more of a frosted look, but it's kind of got sparkles in it. And this one is more clear. So I'm going to try these that have the more frosted look, and I put one of these quite large ones right in the middle of the doily. And isn't that just brighten it up? And then I put one of the smaller ones inside each of the squares of the doily. And there. Isn't that pretty? I just love these. But I can sure see using this particularly, and this over the Petal Pink, I think would show up Petal Pink, just because they're pretty clear. Okay, so now then on this piece, I'm using some of our organdy striped Petal Pink ribbon, and I need a small strip here, just enough to go across my card front. And I'm going to add again dot runner on the back of this ribbon in the center and the ends, and get that set. First, I think I will put this piece in place, and I used dimensionals to pop that up. Okay, once I have this set, where I want it to go in the top part of this card, like right there. Then I know right where I want my ribbon to go, which is right underneath. And I am going to change how we're going to do the sentiment this time. We have a new product that I'd like to highlight that I think is really kind of fun and is going to make some of this putting sentiments on a little bit fun and easy. So there we go. There's my ribbon. Now we have to do our sentiment here. Okay, so what I have is a this new triple punch, and it's called the Lovely Label Pick-a-Punch. And I have a piece of my Gray Granite cut at, I hope this works, cut at a 1/2 inch, and then I can decide how long I want it to be, and I would say to about there, measuring what I've already got down on the card. And I'm going to stick this in both sides and get that, there we go, get that pushed all the way in there and get that little piece there. Now I have a stamp, and this stamp comes from Path of Petals. I wanted something fairly narrow that was a thank you and yet looked fairly substantial. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp in Blackberry ink my thank you on this little strip that I have cut. And going to center that, actually put it a little further to one side. And there we go, I've got my thank you on there. Now then, I thought, how fun would it be to take another strip of paper, because we're always matting these sentiments, and I am going to put this one that is 3/4 of an inch, feels like it's cut just a tiny bit wide. Off screen, I am going to take, oh, just a hair off of this piece. And I'll show you, that's how much I've taken off. Just a little bit. And I want that, now it fits in there just perfectly. All right, now I'm going to push that all the way back and do that. Now look how fun that is. I've got a perfect mat for my punch. I didn't get that in there square. So I'm going to cut that piece off and try that again. And the best way to make sure that it's in there and square is to do it from the back so you can see that you've got it centered, which I now do. And now then, I've got the perfect mat for this piece. So all I have to do is cut this piece off. It looks like right about there, and then stick this other end in to that same slot. Get that centered on the back, and push that. Now I should have a perfect mat for my sentiment. Isn't that fun? And it's with a punch, so it's also fast. Love things that are fast and easy. All right, so now I've got this message to go on the bottom of my card, and I'm going to glue these two pieces together. And then I will raise this one up on dimensionals. I think the smart thing to do when you start to cut this is to cut one piece like your sentiment piece here. This was a 1/2 inch by probably 3 3/4. So I would cut this one 3/4 of an inch by 4. And that way you'd be sure to have a perfectly trimmed down sentiment. So let's see here. This is going to have to come over this way a bit to get centered on here. And there we go. There's my sentiment. Now I'm going to add some dimensionals on the back of it. And I'm just going to stick that to my silicone mat for the moment. I think before I put any more dimension on this, I'm going to go ahead and put my snail down and transfer this to the front of the card. Okay, so here we go. Onto the front of the card, and then I've got my message all ready to go here on my silicone mat, which I'm going to set right down here a little bit off to this one side, and then I've got my little piece of doily that I cut out that's been colored, and I'm going to add a little bit of snail to the back of it. Should have used the other runner. There we go. And I'm going to put that in place right here on the edge of that message, and then add one of my gems to this, and it's going to be one of the smaller ones to go right in here. There we go. All right. Well, that is the front of the card complete. Now, on the inside of the card, we have this piece. We need another length of this ribbon to go across. I'm going to use my snail on the back of that ribbon. I'll set that on my silicone mat. And then I have the doily that I cut my piece from, and I can set this doily down. Now here I did it at kind of an angle and then brushed it in, and I'm thinking that I may just cut this right down the center. So this would be the center line right down here, and I'm going to try and nip that right in half. Set that down right here on the inside with my ribbon going across. So lots of ways to put this down, but I'm going to get some snail down, particularly on those edges on this. And get this put into place here along the edge. There we go. And again, I'll use my glue eraser to take off any little extra glue on there. And then my ribbon, I think I already put glue on it, but doesn't feel like it's got much. And there is my decoration for the inside. And we'll put this, anchor that around the back. There's something really soothing about this color combination. The kind of red purple, the pink, and the gray. It's very pretty, very attractive. All right, so now, and put some snail on the back of my card. A little extra on that ribbon. And put this on the inside of my card. And there we go. That is the project for the day. Isn't that pretty? Although I will say that I do like these little pink gems on here better than I like these. Now, we'd have to test to see what it looked like to put one of the others. Maybe I'll just sneak one on there so we can see what it looks like. If we do one that's more clear, I want to see what it looks like on here if it picks up the purple. It does. So if it were sitting in one of these little recessed areas where it's open and it were sitting on there, it would be shiny and it would reflect the purple. So this one looks like pink. This one looks like whatever the color is behind it. And this one looks almost frosted. Very interesting. Anyway, that is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Or you could join my team. There's a special this month that in addition to the $125 worth of product for $99, you also get a bundle of your choice out of the catalog. So either a stamp set and a die set, or a stamp set and a punch, and in those sets that go together. And so I think this is fun too. I think this is going to make doing these labels, particularly where you want a mat, a lot easier if we have strips cut in 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch to go into these backings. And you could get, if you needed a much larger one, then you could do one on 3/4 of an inch and put your message on it, one that's this side, and then back it with the 1 inch one. So I think this is going to be great fun, and you're going to be able to make labels long as short as you want with this punch. It's very, very versatile. So that's it for me. Let's see, my prize for the month of June is a bundle of your choice out of the new catalog. And all you have to do to get in my drawing is to put an order of any size on my website, lbedinger.stampinup.net, and you can get to it through my blog, www.inkangingenuity.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll be back soon with more tips, more cards, and more projects. Bye!